Folks, something interesting is happening. The Department of Homeland Security is shutting down tonight. After an enormous amount of money was appropriated to it over in the budget that was passed last year, the money was appropriated but not specifically allocated. So they've got a lot of money in the bank, but they can't officially use it. In order to get a budget through quickly, the Republicans agreed to segment DHS funding from a funding bill that passed 2 weeks ago, allowing it to be argued on separately through filibuster rules. And as of this moment, right now, the Republicans and Democrats who are voting along partisan lines have not come to an agreement, meaning that as of tonight, the Department of Homeland Security runs out of money.
Because with a deadline tonight at midnight, House lawmakers left Washington yesterday without a deal to fund or reform the Department of Homeland Security. That all but promises a partial government shutdown. A failed Senate procedure.
I read an article that said the Secret Service ran out of money. Wait, they're not funded through the DHS, are they? No, they can't. They've been around for ages. Wait, what are you implying?
Vote sealed the deal with lawmakers voting.
Yes, they are. That's insane. We fund protection for the president under the newest administrative branch alongside ICE and the TSA. They don't have like a separate they don't get their money through a separate, no, they're Treasury employees. That's insane. I know why they did that. I bet you they moved a bunch of essential services over to the DHS to legitimize it so that it couldn't be shut down. Like if the DHS was entirely made up of ICE and Border Patrol, it'd be easy to flip those services back over to their original departments. But now they're like, oh, you can't get rid of the DHS. Guys, the Secret Service is officially unfunded as of midnight Eastern time tonight.
Almost entirely along party lines, 52-47, well short of the 60 votes.
You know when you're playing a stealth game like Thief or whatever, and the guards have, like, it's like the changing of the guards, you know?
To advance the legislation. Republicans were projecting progress in negotiations, but party leaders still sent members home yesterday.
Did you know it's illegal to say?
To lawmakers for changes at DHS late Wednesday.
I'm not saying nothing.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said the offer falls well short of Democrats' demands.
I'm in the process of reviewing the most recent so-called offer from the White House.
One thing that's interesting to say is that it's completely illegal, totally illegal, insanely illegal to go on YouTube, hit live, and say, as of 9 p.m. PT, 12 a.m. ET, the Secret Service will run out of money and officially will cease their duties, leaving the president and the vice president free to... No.
But my
one thing you can technically say is to like and subscribe.
Preliminary assessment of it is that it falls short of the type of dramatic changes necessary in order to change ICE's out-of-control behavior and deliver immigration enforcement that actually focuses on violent felons who are here illegally. Which is what the president promised to do, and he lied, because taxpayer dollars are being used to brutalize and kill American citizens or violently target law-abiding immigrant families, and that's unacceptable. In our view,
the shutdown will have an uneven effect across DHS, though, because ICE will still be able to tap into a $75 billion fund that keeps the agency running as usual. You've heard me say it before. That's that reconciliation package they passed last summer. Customs and Border Patrol will also have a $65 billion fund that's accessible during this shutdown. What's impacted, though? TSA, FEMA, the Coast Guard, and cybersecurity and infrastructure security agencies. They all don't have that same kind of funding.
It's actually a little bit more complicated than that. Like the tapping into these funds works a little bit differently, and there is some admin stuff that's handled like not the same way. Even if ICE and Border Patrol are like able to dip into those funds, there's other like administrative work within the DHS that needs to supervise those departments, and they don't have the same privileges. It's not the same as being fully funded. It's just like an additional thing to tap into. This also has the effect of making this department look really bad. Like, again, it does not look good to the rest of the country, especially federal workers or soldiers, that these specific Gestapo agents have like a slush fund they can dip into if they need to. Also, I think the process of reimbursement there is a lot more annoying, like because you're not just doing regular fund appropriation, you're instead dipping into the slush fund. It's like annoying to do the paperwork on paying everyone's checks. And my understanding is that a lot of ICE agents are already like missing paychecks. Like there's already been a lot of back-end stuff that's been failing within the Department of Homeland Security because of people in the administrative branch like leaving, or people don't give a or there's just a lot of incompetent people or turnover, or a lot of institutional knowledge that's been lost when they purged people who aren't insane neo-Nazis. So Yeah, like not great with the paperwork, you know. There has been reporting that a lot of ICE people have not been paid, and also a lot of them, because they're like 60 IQ, they don't understand that they're not getting the $50,000 sign-up bonus until after 5 years of work or whatever. So only realizing that after the fact led to a lot of them being kind of disgruntled. There's a reason they're pulling out of Minnesota, okay?
And that's where the pain will be felt. Want to bring in politics and policy reporter for Notice, Oriana Gonzalez, here to end a busy week on Capitol Hill with us. And this has been percolating in the background, a week of hearings and conversations about negotiating. Negotiations haven't really led us to anything. And so here we are on the verge of a partial government shutdown. Lay out the landscape for us. Where are both sides on this?
They're pretty dug in to what they're saying. The negotiations are exactly what you said, nowhere to be seen, to be quite honest. The Democrats had put earlier this week.
The official position of the Republican Party is that, like, ICE gets to keep breaking the law. The Democrats are still willing to allow them to break the law. Even as far as I'm concerned, the insistence that ICE rely on judicial rather than administrative warrants is an implicit concession to the Trump administration by indicating that it was not already illegal to break into people's houses off of administrative warrants, you know? There's so much of, and I'm sure the Democrats are going to let me down, but I really, really hope this stalls for a while. Every time a branch of government shuts down, it is a nightmare to get back online. It's kind of like how you can't turn a power station back online easily. As soon as you turn a power station on, the energy floods the system, and you need to have all these like downstream infrastructural buildings like appropriately geared to handle the new flood of energy. It's kind of like that, you know. We're talking about an institution with so many people, but imagine how this would feel at like a regular workplace. Like, imagine if Starbucks ran out of money all of a sudden, and every Starbucks in an entire state had to shut down, pack up their bags, all of the food shipments, all of the restocks and the drinks, everything, all that ground to a halt. And then you're like, oh, okay, we're back online again. Boo. Like, it's a huge pain in the ass no matter what. You know, the day the funding gets, reestablished is not the day everything goes back to running. So I'm in favor of this just as like from like a chaos agent perspective, you know? What
they want to see done to rein in ICE, but Republicans were essentially not engaging with it. To that end, what we're going to see tonight is a shutdown of DHS. I do want to say something here that I feel like gets lost in the sauce here, around this conversation.
Lost in the sauce?
ICE and CBP have funding, but I know
what you are. Your glasses and your sweater and your internet, your dialect. I see you.
And yes, TSA, FEMA, et cetera, they will be affected. But already they were facing a lot of issues under the Trump administration. I mean, TSA has shortage problems. FEMA, for example, my colleagues Violet Gier and Anna Kramer broke that FEMA is sitting on, or Kristi Noem rather, is sitting on $1 billion of grants that have not been given to states that are explicitly for disaster prevention. So yes, of course, these agencies are going to be impacted by the shutdown, but these issues are already happening. So they're just going to be exacerbated by this shutdown.
I think that's actually a really important point here. And it's also part of why Democrats are saying they need to.
By the way, I should note, just if we're mentioning Kristi Noem, because I wouldn't be able to fit this into a segment elsewhere, Kristi Noem actually fired a Coast Guard pilot for leaving her blanket behind on a flight. Just a little story, just another like peep into the administration and all the like little petty French aristocrats with their tea time started 2 minutes late. Fired, you're all fired, lemon grab ass shit that they've been up to. It's really funny. To fire a pilot, by the way. Yeah, they had to rehire him because nobody else could even fly the plane home. So yeah, just a little, just a tidbit.
Force this fight now. And I think we should underscore at the beginning of the year, because we're not that far into it, but it was clear to me in conversations with senior Democrats, there was no major appetite to do another shutdown. And then
she can't just do that, right? Well, no, she controls the Coast Guard, so she kind of can. Maybe not directly, but they basically have like unitary control over the administrative state at this point. So functionally, yeah, they can.
They saw what happened on the ground in Minneapolis, first with Renee Good, then with Alex Preddy, and Democrats felt, how can we not do something here, exercise the few levers of power that we have? So how long do you think your sources are saying we're going to be in this? Because if the negotiations are nowhere, which it seems like they are, then how do you even reopen the government, especially when you're just talking about one agency out of all of the rest of them?
I think because of that, because it's one agency, it's unclear exactly how long it'll go. I agree. I didn't think that we would be in this situation about 3 months since the longest shutdown in U.S. history. But what I have strangely heard so far, I spent a good chunk of the week talking to congressional appropriators.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to know, is it shameful for the committee that we're in another shutdown, albeit partial, just 3 months after the last one? And to be honest, they're not exactly sad about it. They see it as like the committee was able to pass 11 bills, 11 of the appropriation bills. This is just a policy conflict. And so for them,
that's really stupid. That's like the bar is on the floor. It's not a problem that we can't secure DHS funding because we were able to secure funding for the other administrative branches. What are you talking about? None of this is supposed to happen at all in a functioning country. There aren't supposed to be any shutdowns ever. None of this is supposed to happen.
It's saying, okay, we're on our way back to regular order. If the shutdown is kind of happening to this one agency, I guess it's just what's going to have to happen.
And is it Democrats and Republicans who are appropriators that feel that way?
Yes.
Yeah, rare moment of bipartisan agreement on that. And then, of course, as we're talking about where the fallout is, yes, it's at the agency level, but then there's also this kind of interesting new outgrowth when it comes to the House, because the Speaker, Mike Johnson, is not authorizing official travel for House lawmakers during the shutdown. So a trip to the Munich Security Conference for them has been canceled. A congressional delegation, we call them a CODEL here, was supposed to have left yesterday for that conference. Some House lawmakers who are planning to attend can still go if they travel on their own dime. Some of them are doing that. The trip for senators is still on, with a sizable co-delegation in attendance, along with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. So walk us through where this is at, because some senators said yesterday, I was asking, for example, Senator Richard Blumenthal, are you still going even as DHS funding hangs in limbo? And he said,
wait, nobody cares about funding DHS, Lamau? Keep in mind that no funding for DHS means no TSA, means that flights stall all around the country as they have to like bring more people on for unpaid shifts, and they have to constrict how many like security lanes there are. It's really bad. I think the reason why they don't care, again, I think that the Republican Party's completely checked out at this point. I think they're fully aware of the fact that this administration is done, and it's just a matter of looting what they can. So like, oh, DSA is not working, whatever. Like, I didn't really care about the country functioning anyway. Who cares?
And yeah, I think it's really important for us to appear on the world stage at this pivotal moment. Certainly no shortage of geopolitical issues for them to talk about. But now the House isn't going. What is behind this? Why is the Speaker keeping them here at home, especially when they weren't at work during the last shutdown? I'm just a little confused on the rationale here.
What we heard so far, and actually I think Emma Snow was the one that reported this first, was that a GOP aide essentially said that these CODELs get canceled when there's a shutdown for the House specifically. The Senate is still on. And I find it a little bit ironic because, to be honest, the reason why a shutdown is happening was because lawmakers were excited to go to Munich.
Yeah.
They were desperately trying to get out of town. And now, I mean, unless they want to, pay for their own flights there, they're stuck in the U.S. So maybe this could have been prevented, at least.
Breaking a country is a lot easier than I assumed. Yeah, I don't want to like keep going back to it, I guess, but it's on my mind right now with the whole Gavin Newsom, JD Vance thing. This is another one of those underlying institutional things. Like, everything good the Democrats do will be undone by Republicans in 3 months. And even with Democrats in charge, like, we're still going to have to deal with stuff like the constant spending limits, or debt limits, like every 3 months, everyone get together. This is the only time anyone can get anything done, threaten a shutdown. Like, there are so many fundamental, and the debt, dude, what are we up to with the debt? U.S. debt clock. We need a wealth tax like yesterday, man. 38.7 trillion. The interest on this is going to start hitting like 1.5 trillion. Oh my God. Debt isn't real. Unfortunately, I have very bad news. Unfortunately, it actually is. I have very, very, very bad news. The MMT assumption that debt doesn't matter because you can just, the debt raises as proportion to the GDP. This assumes the GDP will keep going up. In reality, unfortunately, that is not how things work. What happens if we don't pay it? Don't worry about it, kitten. Okay. Yay.
On the House side, but maybe perhaps even on the Senate side as well. But it's unclear exactly what happens. If, maybe Democrats will take this as an opportunity, to talk about what needs to be done for ICE on the world stage and get more of an audience that way. But we'll have to see exactly what happens, because, to be honest, after the last shutdown,
Yeah, I had to settle 19 grand in debt for 9K recently because I crashed out a few years ago doing meth and ruined my 800 credit score. What a life you're living, dude. You had a meth crash out, racked up 20 grand in debt, but then after that maintained an 800 credit score? You know what? Good on you for getting out of the crash out and also for shaving $10,000 off your debt. That's awesome. You'll get your credit score back up. Don't worry.
Then seeing this one again 3 months later, anything can happen there.
Ultimately, do you think that there is a deal to be made here? Do you think there are enough overlaps in the policy Venn diagram for Democrats and Republicans to put some guardrails on ICE?
We see some reforms that have, bipartisan support. So, for example, the wearing of body cams and stuff like that. But something that Democrats do not seem to want to let go of is the face coverings.
Yep.
They want to make sure that those are gone and that they are actually identifying themselves to people. Republicans are not.
Apparently, the debt-fueled binge the U.S. is on will result in a $2 trillion interest payment a year by 2036. That's so cool. It might end up being more than that. This might actually end up being a lowball. If you take a look at this, is assuming that there's not another big mass spending event like what happened during COVID, Because the interest payment, the debt racked up considerably there. It's very possible that things are going to get worse. Like we could hit 2 trillion well before 2036. Who are we paying this debt to? People who hold U.S. Treasury bonds. Does the USD losing its value change any of this when it comes to debt? Not really, because the debt's held in U.S. dollars, but that's the money the government has anyway. So the currency it uses kind of remains the same. Like the amount you owe is less, but the amount you have is less too. No, most U.S. debt is held by American companies, not foreign countries.
Not budging. The White House is not budging because they say that, if they take those coverings away, they will be prone to doxing. Whereas Democrats say if they're officials, if they're federal agents, if they're law enforcement agents, then they should be held to the same standards that other law enforcement agents are. And so we're seeing that discrepancy there that it does not seem to be going away.
Yeah, exactly. And ICE officials who were on Capitol Hill yesterday and on Tuesday all said that they feel that that's something that needs to remain in place. It's still a very much a live debate. Politics and policy.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, we're talking about the freeze of the DHS right now. It is bad for the Trump admin that the DHS is frozen. Will the Democrats hold out and get something good? Probably not. They would also need like an enforcement mechanism. Like what happens if they mandate that ICE not wear masks and then they just do anyway? Like what, like is it going to lead to like what, arrests? What's happening there, Oh, like keep in mind, ICE is violating the law right now with the Fourth Amendment being violated every day with their administrative warrant house kick-ins. They're already doing that. What consequences there been? Ay. Well, we'll see how it goes.